Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
Hey, Wayne, how are you this morning? Oh, Tip, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good.
Morning, Tip. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ed, I got to get caught up with you in July at some point. Just want to check in and just get reconnected.
Okay. I got to say, you're in Atlanta, right?
No, I'm in Detroit.
Detroit? Oh, that's okay. You must be cooler than me. You're cooler than me. Yes.
No, we're going to be 97 today.
Yeah, we were 100 yesterday.
Where are you again, Ed?
Columbus.
Oh, yeah. Nothing like being in a warm field in Ohio.
Oh, I mean, last week I was in Rochester, New York, and down in the Finger Lakes for the week. And we played golf with long pants on and a windbreaker. I mean,
Yeah,
now this week we're dying out there.
That's right. Who else is with us this morning?
Looks like Paul is trying to dial in.
There's Paul.
I am indeed trying to just dial in.
Takes a while to get in, right?
Well, there's all these little notes that come up saying that we're doing this or that and stuff that you got to get rid of.
I know. It's please sign in by this way and hit this. And if you hit it, nothing happens.
Yeah. It's not as bad as Teams. Yeah. One company I work with, I have to put in some 8-letter number thing that I have to read in order to get through their cybersecurity system.
Firewall type of thing.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things that you'd like to say we don't need, but the answer is we do need them.
Yeah, unfortunately. I did have my email crapped up. Yeah, and it took about $600 and a day's worth of work to get it back to normal.
Yeah, I got my guys really helped to keep mine tighter than tight right now. I'm so happy.
Well, that's good.
Tip, you have dueling printers there.
I do.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, one's color, one's black and white. And you can probably imagine which one I use the most.
No, I can't, because I keep telling my wife to use the black and white setting and don't use that color.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
My default, man.
Someday I'm going to let her go over to Staples and actually pay the dollars for the ink.
Well, are we reading the contract to see if you can speak today, Tip?
See if I can speak. Which one is that?
The speaking contract for Growth Drive.
No. No, I didn't put anything in, so I don't know what you're referencing.
It's a do not disturb the contract.
Yeah, no. So.
Hey, Michael.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Hey.
Guys, I got a jet at 9 o'clock or top of the hour, just so you know. So
all right,
I will quietly bow out.
Well, then you need to get in more than your share of talking in the first half.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. About what?
I don't know. Like, what do you want to talk about? What's hot on people's minds today?
Good question.
So
Tim's
something that
got a
came up
topic
for
for
us.
us. Tim always has a topic. What's the topic of the day, Tim?
Well, I have a question. I don't know if that
Okay.
qualifies as a topic. So one of my clients uh, has owned their business for 2 or 3 years, and they're thinking about exiting maybe a year down the road, and they're wondering how they can best approach uh, some high net worth customers they've got without without letting the cat out of the bag, or just how they can approach them to say, hey, would you ever be interested in buying this business without leaving them feeling like, oh, well, these guys are going to jump or sell. So a graceful way to approach prospective buyers that doesn't leave people or rumors in the market feeling like you're jumping ship.
Well, one general thing I'd suggest always is intermediary. Have a third party ask them so that it's safe, right? Because then it's not, if I ask the girl whether she wants to date me, all she has is a yes or no. But if her girlfriend asks her whether she wants to date me, then it's a different ask, right?
That'd be now, right? Sounds like you have a lot of experience with this.
Well, yeah. Fortunately, I've been married happily for 35 years, so I don't have to deal with that. But the analogy works. The analogy works. We all remember it from high school, right? Do you ask the person directly, or do you go through your friends network to talk to them? And oftentimes the best way to get the real answer of what's going on is to go indirectly, right? Because everybody's too many people are polite and they won't say what they really think when you ask them directly. So that's my first piece of advice.
Okay.
That's
I'll
good.
throw a different. I'll throw an additional take on that, Tim. One of the things you may do is discuss with the high net worth people that you've been approached by somebody who wants to buy the business, and would they be willing to give you their reaction or feedback, because that has occurred. So it's just like you don't have numbers. You're not trying to sell. You're just asking, what would you suggest?
So this would be intermediary that Eric's talking about, or them directly talking with this high net
I
worth
think
person?
I would talk directly with them. That way, because you're not talking any numbers. All you're doing is saying, "Hey, I was approached, and I trust you because you're a very valuable client. You want a feedback from them."
Yeah.
Yeah. So to go back to my analogy, you're using hey, Susie asked me to go out on a date, and I just want to hear what you think about that.
Right.
That's helpful.
Jim, there's no question this is a tricky situation. It's a tricky situation in that you don't want to offend the client or whatever, or mess up your relationship with the primary client if you're the one who wants to sell. It's also tricky because you don't know how quiet they could be about doing things. And so anytime you're talking about any M&A transaction, it's a sensitive conversation no matter who you're having it with, right? And so part of the reason I always lean to intermediaries is they're more experienced at having these sensitive conversations. They've had lots of, conversations, and you can be more generic. Hey, I know you're in this industry, Tim. I have a client who is in this industry who's thinking about selling. Have you ever thought about buying somebody up and down your vertical, right? Have you ever thought of acquisitions, right? It's a generic question that doesn't put ABC's name out there. It doesn't tip anybody's scales yet, and it gets a feel for whether they're even interested. If they're saying, hell no, I'd never acquire somebody, you know your answer already, right? It doesn't matter right? It gets you a generic answer. Now, there might be a little different answer when they know who it is, but again, I'm an analogy guy. Do you want all your neighbors walking through your house when it's for sale, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, like there's just that aspect of it, right? And so, how do you control that? In my book, intermediary is the easiest way to control that because it puts it in a safe third party that you trust to have a good conversation without without the bullhorn and letting everybody know what's going on.
Hey Tim, can I get a clarification? Is this approaching their current customers or potential buyers?
Our customers. So
Okay.
To be
they've
potential
known,
buyers.
they've known from the day they bought it that it wasn't gonna be a forever business for them, that they would be exiting in 3 to 5 years. So they're coming up on 3 years, and I think they would like to be out by the end of next year. And so they're curious. They've got 2 key employees that have expressed an interest in buying it. They don't have the means, so it would mean, bank financing and internal transfer like we talk about all the time on here. That's a possibility. That's how they bought it in the first place from the prior owner. Um, Having said that, there's option B, which they said they know several high net worth customers that they think could be prospective buyers. And then I pointed out that it could be a balance of the two. So
A hybrid. Yep.
right, whether the high net worth customer buyer wanted to be an operator or not, they might need these two and want them to stay in. So it might be some sort of a shared relationship. So Eric, if we looked at the intermediary approach with that, can we take that a step farther? So I get having a third party approach rather than the owners, but like, how would you start that? I don't know this person, so the intermediary wouldn't be me, but I want to give these guys
Well, it
some.
could be you. It could be you, and you're actually a perfect example of it. You know how to talk to people like that. You know how a transaction works. They give you the name. They say, "Hey, our customer XYZ company is the one that here's our 3 companies that we think might be good opportunities," and you call them up. Now, it might be better, for instance, if we knew who their CPA, who those 3 clients' CPA was, or is there an attorney each of them know, or is there a financial advisor each of them know? If they already had a relationship, then we could go to the person who has a relationship with them and say, hey, I've got a client that is in their industry. Can you and I talk to them together? Right. Like, I'd just be looking for an angle to get in there. I'd want it to be a warm handshake, not a cold. Cold calling people to ask them if they want to buy something doesn't get you an honest answer either. People hang up the phone on those people or don't answer, right? So there has to be a warm handshake in there somewhere. But my guess is if they already know them as clients and they have a tighter relation, they're good clients and they know something about them, they know some common people, right? And again, that's how I would get there. I would find what that common source is, and I would go to them and say, hey, I'm just reaching out to you. I understand you have a relationship with XYZ company. I happen to know somebody who might want to sell. I thought they might want to buy. How do we talk to them together?
Joe Lorenz.
Right?
Yep, got it.
That's how I'd approach it. Now, it doesn't always work well, Tim. Be honest. Sometimes you can't find that connection, that inside warm handshake, right? And so that's a difficulty in my way versus like Ed's comment that, just have the conversation with them. And some of this depends on what's the relationship you have with what's the relationship you have with the between the potential seller and their client. If they have a really close relationship, like they play golf once a week, that's a different story than if you're calling them just as a straight customer, right? I was responding to, they're just my client. They're a good client, but they're just my client. If they're my best friend and my client, that's a different conversation for sure.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know the depth of their affinity with each other, so I'll explore
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think you got to understand what that relationship is. You got to understand what their comfort is. Again, the thing I'm always concerned with for the client, for my client, is how concerned are they about it getting out that they're selling? And generally speaking, that's not a good thing,
Yeah.
right? Generally speaking, we all understand why that's not a good thing. And so you're trying to make sure that the intermediary plays two roles, right? Two main roles in this respect. One, they protect the information of who the seller is, right? They create a wall that you as the prospective buyer don't know who that prospective seller is,
Mhm.
right? They also help develop the relationship and measure the relationship. Is this somebody who's a serious buyer? Is this somebody who understands? Is this somebody who are they just dipping their toe in the water, or are they actually thinking about this seriously, and should I make the introduction, right? You
Mhm.
know, how many people do we get approached by, all of us all the time? Hey, I'd like to meet, I saw on LinkedIn, this person, I'd like to meet that person. Well, that person is kind of protective, right? And so you play that role in between to just say, oh, well, hold on a second. Are you trying to sell them something? Because I don't want to just introduce you so you can call them up and pester
Yeah.
on them, right? It's that, right? We all understand.
Eric, how is this intermediary not actually a broker?
Don't have to be could be a broker or an investment banker,
Yeah.
but I'm defining intermediary as matchmaker, not deal maker,
Okay. So
right? They're not the person marrying them, they're the person introducing them.
so let me come back to Tim. Tim, are they looking to uh avoid having a broker that has to be
Yeah.
paid money, or looking for a strategic buyer, or why aren't they wanting to auction the company off to get the largest price?
Yeah, I think it's premature for that. I think they just want to test the waters. They want to see if one of their key clients might have an interest in. Apparently, in some of the conversations they've had, they've gotten the impression either from this person's patronage or affinity for the company that
They
they've
might have some
identified them
interest.
as
Yeah.
they might have some interest, and I think they're looking for a way to test that, without getting too deep into any revelations or anything specific, and without getting word on the street that they might be selling the business.
Would
Yeah.
this customer of theirs be a potential customer of yours today, even if they don't buy the company you're working with?
Yeah, my guess is yes. I don't know who they're talking about, but when it comes to their business in this area, it's a gun range and retail operation. So it's not like he's going to go with it. It's not like we're talking about professional services. He's going to go with somebody else. This is where he would go and shoot and buy and everything else. So.
Because one of the things that one organization I've worked with suggests you do to your own client, go into your client and say, "Well, give me 6 customers and 6 suppliers to your business, and I'll go talk to them to see what they think about you, and that will be part of something that I deliver to you." So you could approach your customer and say, "Hey, I've got this proposal for you. I'll do this." And in the process, you learn an awful lot about your current client, but now you have 12 prospects that suddenly know you.
Well, and that might be a great way to generically go talk to these, you know, um, you go have a conversation with these 3 or 4 clients that they want in the under the guise of, hey, we're doing a marketing study to try and improve and run our business better. And they say, I love them so much, I'd buy them if they were available. Right. And it just comes out in the conversation, Tim. I think that's brilliant, Paul. Right? In a retail environment, especially, it'd be different in a manufacturer, or you might handle it a little differently. But in a retail kind of environment, what a great way to, hey, I'll go talk to your clients and find out what they think of you, right? And you'll get benefit out of it both ways. You'll get some improvements out of it, but I might be able to tease out of them that they're so interested if it were for sale, they'd consider buying it.
Great.
That's really good, Paul.
I've
Hey,
yet
Eric,
to
can I
try that.
can I change the topic a bit?
Yeah, let's just make sure. Did everybody get a chance to? Yes, in a second. Tim, Tip, or Ed, did you want to comment? Or Wayne, you guys want to comment any more on Tim's?
I'm good.
I'm fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Tim, did you get enough there
Yep.
to?
That was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great, good. So, Mike, go away. Hit it.
Okay, yeah, sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm moving off that topic for a moment. So I did a Clarity One exercise with I guess he's a client, prospect. I'll call him a client at this point. But I did the Clarity One exercise with him yesterday.
Yeah.
And much to my surprise, he scored a 91. Yeah, as far as strategic capacity. Right.
And do you think it's real, Mike? When you were listening to what he said, do you think he was being honest?
Well, I can't. I told him before we started, I said, look, this is like, and I used the analogy, this is like playing golf by yourself. You could cheat yourself if you want. You can give yourself a stroke. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself, right? So he said, yeah, no problem. But, you ask those 24 questions, right? And people can say, yeah, we do this. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, but do they do it? Is it documentable? I mean, is it observable? Is it really being done? In their head, they may say, oh yeah, we do that. But I don't know. And that's, I guess my sense here is that when we go to level 2, when we get to Clarity 2, I think we will start drilling down further into those 24 generic questions into more specific items that will kind of flush out whether or not that 91 is a real 91, unless he continues if he's making it up, he can continue to make it up. But
Mike, what's the industry?
he's excuse me. He provides emergency medical transport services. He's an ambulance guy. He's got 2 companies that provide ambulatory services, right? So he's looking to exit in about, he says 3 to 5 years, which I say is great. This is the time we should be talking. So, I went through Clarity One and boom, he scored a 91. But, and the number, but here's the thing. He got, it showed his business being worth about $24 million today based on that 91 score. Excuse me. And the value gap, the difference between what it is worth and what it could be worth is only about $3 million. But more important than that, I went to the equity planner, and 24 million is great today, but we got into a discussion of what are you going to need when you walk away? What kind of annual excuse me, what kind of annual income are you going to need before taxes, to sustain your lifestyle when you leave? And so he threw a number at me, and I said, okay, let's go with that. Well, I encourage you to go back and get that number more refined. You go talk to a financial planner or your wealth manager. Let's get a refined number, but let's use your number. And so when we went through the whole exercise of that value equity planner, it turned out that he was gonna, first of all, he has debt. His company has $4 million of debt already, so that has to be paid off, right? When he sells, he has other personal debt he wants to pay off, and then when you talk about professional fees, brokerage fees, professional fees, and taxes. When you do that whole exercise, voila, that business needs to be worth $50 million when he leaves. Okay, it needs to be worth $50 million when he leaves, and it's worth 25 today. But that's the bad news. Good news is he's got 3 to 5 years to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I love this equity value planner because I could show him, we could do a lot of different what ifs, right? We could say, look, if you don't do anything, if you leave the business the way it is today, 91 is a great score. But if you don't if you don't change your multiple and you leave your profit margin just static the way it is, how much do you have to grow in 3 years in this case? How much do you have to go in 3 years to get your number? And it turned out that, we'd have to double the size of his business in 3 years to get to the 50 million. Right.
Yep.
And he goes, well, that's pretty tough. And I go, well, that's if you do nothing. So then I play with the, I play with the software and I show him, look, if you can increase your multiple from where you are now to a higher multiple, and if you improve your profit margin, 4 or 5 points, let's see what happens then if you were to do that. And, sure enough, as you know, the software, it'll model that. And sure enough, it came back to, well, if you do that, you'd only have to grow about 9 or 10% a year for the next 3 years to get to the number. So, that was pretty useful for him. He understood where he was and where he needed to go, and he knew that there was more than one way of skinning the cat. Of course, he's focused on growing the top line and growing the bottom line. But I told him, look, one of the other levers here and increasing your value is getting that multiple up higher than it is today. Because if you can increase it one more turn, that's $3 or $4 or $5 million. And so I'm gonna, the next step is to do that deep dive clarity 2. And I suspect that when I go through that, I would guess that 91 score will probably be coming down a bit.
Yeah, I think the level 2 is a good thing. Mike, I like also, you and I are both CPAs. I like what Chris Snyder says. It's the old trust and verify, right? So another thing is, pick 1 or 2 of them. I don't know how long you've known this guy. I don't know how well you know his personality. Is he a, total optimist, right? Everything is great, right? Pick something that you can see that is likely to have some room in it, and then go and say, hey, you said you're a 4 in this, right? You said you're perfect on this. Let's drill into that a little bit. Tell me about all the things you do there, right? And can you show me that? Can you show me your marketing plan? Where, right? What I find in those instances, Mike, is when I ask them to show me something, well, yeah, I got a marketing plan. I kind of know what I want to do. Well, that's not a written plan.
No, I know.
Right. And so, you know this, Mike. This isn't, right? This is us just talking about it. When you push a little bit on that often, what comes back is I'm the guy, so I know what it is, right? And then you go, well, that's not what it says. It says a written plan. You don't have a written plan, therefore you're not that. Let's peel that onion a little more. And then the beauty of that, Mike, is when they really come out to be a 65 and not a 91, now there's lots of room to move that multiple.
Yeah, no doubt. I understand. It's just, I was just wondering if anyone else had an experience like that where, the first pass through on Clarity 1, the score was like off the charts, like, 91. Like anything over 85 is like best in class. And, if anybody's ever experienced that, and then what happened subsequent when they went to either Clarity 2 or they went deeper, did they find that first number was a false read?
I absolutely have, probably 70% of the time I've pushed back on clarity scores, sometimes in the room because I know better. One of them recently was one of my colleagues and I went out and did it. We came back and went through our notes because we were using Plod and we were writing notes, and we went through our notes and said, hold on a second. She said this, and yet she gave herself this score. Like that, those two don't go together, as we were reviewing the scores and our notes. And we went back and pushed back on 4 or 5 of the scores and had another call with her and said, hey, we looked through our notes. This didn't make any sense. Tell us a little bit more about this area, and push back. And then we got, she agreed that, that was more realistic. Right.
Mike, the other thing is a lot of times that high score breaks down when you bring in the leadership team and do an alignment.
Oh,
The SLT is a
clarity.
huge
Oh,
way to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
told him that. I said to him, I would like he has a COO and he has some other. I said, I'd like your key people to take this, answer these questions independent of you. And let's see, before we can go further, do anything further here, let's just see if everyone is in alignment
I
on.
like to do the SLT before I do the level 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, I would suggest it. Let's just see if all your key people that are going to be involved in this exercise to increase value and make the business, easier to run and more profitable. Let's just see what they think about
Yeah.
these things, because my experience has been when I've done that, it's hardly ever totally aligned. I mean, there's a lot of misalignment.
I haven't had single one that's totally aligned. Yeah.
And then
Like
you know
that,
what happened? What
a
happened?
little-
So Eric,
A little
Go ahead.
story here. I
Sure.
had a leadership team. Father and son are both on the leadership team, and then partner. Son is not partner. So father, partner, son, and a fourth guy who's not an owner or a family member, right? That's the leadership team. We got into a room. I had given them all the SLT. We come back. We're meeting together. And this is just one item of the 24 items. The 3, not the son, father, partner, other guy, all give sales a 4. They all say, we really do that well. We're killing it. Everything's great. We have process. We have documentation. We have it all. Like, wow, we're on fire. Son, who happens to run sales, calls bullshit on it and says it's a 2. So we get in the room and I'm like, boy, this is interesting, guys. All of you say you're a 4. Son says 2. What's going on here? And dad jumps in right away. Wow, we have this process. We have this, not totally defensive, but a little defensive, like, hey, I don't know, I don't know what he's talking about. We're killing it. What's the problem? And son quietly, just waits for a second and then afterwards says, yeah, we have that on this division, but on this division, we don't have shit. Sorry. Like, we don't have anything, right?
technical term, and we understand that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was a, acronym for,
No,
something.
what I find, Eric, along your lines, what I have found is oftentimes after I do the strategic alignment report and then we sit down and we review it, I find that some of the disparities or some of the differences in views and perspectives is because of poor internal communication. Meaning that one person says, "Oh, we have that nail," and someone else says, "We have none of that," or "We have very little." Once I get them together talking about, like, why did you score it high? Why? And they start talking. Sometimes they find out that in fact they do have it. They just didn't know it, and they didn't know where it was.
Right.
Because
But in this instance, Mike, what was interesting in this instance, son was right. They all came from a 4 down to a 2 because they admitted, you're right. We hadn't thought about that. Right. Right. So it can go either way. To your point, it can go either way. And I think that, again, just like it's your own score, as you pointed out, you can cheat on yourself on a golf score. When other people are around and will call you on it, hey, are you forgetting the drop where you hit it into the water? Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to count that stroke, right?
water.
Yeah, what water? Right. But I think what's so powerful about the SLT is it forces people to listen. Oftentimes what I find is the most optimistic person is the owner. They think everything's in order. They think they've got a great team. They think they've got everything they need. And I remember an owner once saying, I don't have any politics around here. And then all the other people are like, yeah, you don't have any politics around here, but the rest of us do, right? Like, so.
Yeah, I got you. No, it's a good exercise because, again, you see, a lot of times you get the real answer because now you're forcing people to talk about it together and kind of. Sometimes I don't put their names on their scores. I just I leave them, but I know who scored the highest and the lowest. But I'll ask them.
Yeah.
Whoever scored the 5, can you tell us why you gave it a 5?
I ask them, Mike. I ask them, do you want to do the names or do we want to just sort this out?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
they usually decide one way or the other. Right. And
yeah, yeah. It's a good exercise. I agree. It's a necessary precursor before you get into into two, because you don't want people going in there and being totally on the not on the same page, not looking. You need a consensus view, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You need the team to have a consensus view of how they see the company today and where the problems are before you can really start doing anything. Otherwise, you have people growing in different directions.
I
On
think
the
it's
same.
less about honesty, Mike, than it is about objectivity. When you
Yeah,
get all the viewpoints, I think you get better objectivity. And now the
right.
total optimist doesn't come out and people start saying, yeah, that's nice to say that our house is always clean. But you know what? We don't really, wipe down the sink and sweep or vacuum very often. So we're not really clean, right? And so you get that you get that realism, the objectivity that says, hey,
Right.
maybe it is a little dirty around here, right?
So Eric, when you do the SLTs, do you send each person a link to the a full clarity one, or do you send them that other link that George has, the one that's I forgot the phrase he uses for it.
I use so I do full clarity one with an owner in person always. And
Right.
then for the SLT, I send them the marketing link for the SLT. They're just doing the 24 questions and their information, their email, their whatever. It's not asking them the question,
Yeah,
it's
but
not,
business,
I'm not
the
trying to
sales,
do the
the
valuation.
revenue.
Right.
Yeah, the sales, the revenue, all that. You just want their answers. Yeah, that's what I thought. The marketing link would be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
And I all now what I've learned after the first couple is I send them a note with it saying in just a little bit of instruction saying sometimes it's going to say like, can you go on vacation for a while?
yeah,
That those references are to the CEO.
right, right, right.
So I put perspective on it so that they know because they don't know how to answer the question sometimes.
Right.
Well, if you're sending
So,
it to the executive assistant, which wouldn't be on the leadership team, but
no,
they're not. Yes, of course I can go on vacation whenever I want. Like
no, I got
right.
you.
So
Yeah, no,
I just give them a little bit of perspective of how to answer not a lot, but enough that I think they
yeah,
can then answer it. Right.
yeah, yeah. I got it. Yeah, I got it. I got it. Yeah, okay. I think thanks for that. Yeah, that's the next step here. But
Anybody
and
else? Tim, Paul,
Yeah,
Ed, comments on that?
I have some experience with it too, and it confirms what your suspicion is, Mike. So I just with a company that the owner, that actually the CEO did the score, and they were in the high 60s. And then when we did the alignment exercise with the full leadership team, that dropped 6 points. So now they were in the low 60s. And when we did the Clarity 2, where they had to say, yes, I do, no, I don't, kind of do, kind of don't for all the things behind everything, it dropped 10 points. So they had a total drop of 16 points from when they started. And some of the stuff was really like below the line, right? So their strategic capacity score, I think when they were all done, wound up being like a 59, which meant some things were in the 40s, right? Some were higher, but it was a real education for everybody. It worked exactly as prescribed. So what Eric was talking about is that the way we describe it is that it's not objectivity as much as it's a shared reality. Like everybody's watching a different movie, a different version of the movie. Everybody sees the thing through their own. Every one of us has our own reality, and so we achieved some consensus reality with the alignment exercise. Now we are at least all watching the same movie. When you start breaking it down and what's present or missing in every scene of the movie and every one of those things, that's when you really start to figure out what you need or don't. I think the more important point, or at least as important point here with your question or where you're at with this prospective client is to let them know that, okay, this is great. You got your perspective. This is outstanding. Can I tell you the most important thing here is that you get a totally honest perspective on what your business, how your business is actually running and what it's actually worth, regardless of what you think or what the next person thinks. And that's what our process leads to. So what counts most, what's going to help you the most get the exit that you want, is to go through this process, and we will figure out what the truth is for each of these things, whether it's what you think now or what you'll come to think once you have more information. And then here's the real value in what I have to offer you, is that we'll know exactly what to focus on to increase the value the most and the fastest. So you're not wasting any time or resources. That's what I have to offer you, right? So something along those lines, right?
I
So
just
really
add
what you're
no
doing is you're
surprises during due diligence also, right? Because you'd
exactly,
hate for
yes.
it to come up at that point. That's the
Yeah.
worst time for you to figure out what reality is.
Yeah, and share some of those stats that 50% of the deals that fail fall apart at the deal table. And oftentimes it's because the seller was delusional, or they had a perspective of their business that they couldn't support, with sufficient evidence for the buyer. That's what we hedge against. So you're doing absolutely the right thing by working through this process. I'm gonna share, just like a movie becomes easier to understand. A plot is easier to understand as you go through it. So will this process. So I encourage you to go the distance, however you want to go about putting that. But I think that's a real important point to make, as opposed to getting hung up. I don't want to say hung up, but putting too much emphasis on whether he's overscoring the business right now. Chances are he's overscoring.
I think he is. I think he is. I mean, to be honest with you, I think he is. But
Yeah.
but most owners do. They it's their baby, right? So they're the parent, and they're out there beating their chests. Um,
Yeah, the best way for us to figure out how the market would view your business is to get as objective a look at it as possible from our side on the way. And so that's what this process reveals. It's a little like peeling an onion, but we're gonna work there first by understanding the shared perspective of everybody in your team. You agree that's valuable, right? Right, yeah, right. Okay, now then we'll go in and do the deep dive, and that's what will tell us what's really there or really not. And now you'll know exactly what to do so that you're not stood up at the deal table.
Tim, I
Right.
couldn't agree more. I do find often that people don't really understand the top level 24 questions completely at the level that when you start peeling it at the level 2 assessment. Oh, you mean I have to have a successor for each of my senior management team for me to be a 4? Well, do you have that? Do you have a written succession plan for each of those 4? Well, no. Well, then you're not a 4, right? You're not that you cannot by definition be this when you don't have the components that make it up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I asked that question. I mean, one of the questions has to do with. I think it touches on. Does every role have a successor in waiting or something to that
Yeah.
effect, right? And so the guy told me, yeah, our philosophy here is we're training our replacement. We're always training our replacement. I said, well, that may be where your motto and your goal and your philosophy, but is there a formal program that is documented showing that?
Or just even ask so here's your 4 senior managers, right?
Right.
What's the name of each of their successors?
Well, I didn't do that, but I asked them.
Yeah.
I know that you promote that, and you say that, and you encourage people to do that, and you do it yourself. But is it a formal written plan? Do you have formal written succession plans? And
Yeah.
are you following up to make sure that they're being done? Not just, oh yeah, I'm training my successor. They shadow me, whatever. So I pushed back on that, and he went from we have it to partially true.
Yeah.
Because I kind of
Yeah.
I give
And
a little.
if we pull the first string today and put the second stringers in there, how would we do?
Yeah, right. That's another great question, Tim. Yep.
This guy's done a good job of having the business run without him, because he was calling me from his summer home down here in Florida and business up in Georgia. And he goes, Mike, I don't get any calls when I'm here in my summer house when I'm here for a month. Only level 5 stuff gets to me. Everything else, it all gets taken care of by
That's a good sign.
really
That's a
good.
great
You're
sign,
in an
yeah.
enviable position. That's really good that you're able to do that. But I'm sure there's some other voice.
You'd say that's
Anyway.
a good chance we're going to be able to get multiple offers at high multiples. Let's make sure.
And maybe there are 78 really, right?
You want to make sure. You just want to make sure.
Maybe they're
Right.
higher middle 70s, right? Really, but I like you, Mike, I doubt they're a 91. Now it's possible.
Yeah, I doubt it too. I just, but then again, I just put that, I mark it, under the under the heading of, owner pride and self-aggrandizement. They all talk about, how great they're, especially if this guy could take a month off and, not have to worry about it. He's like, well, I got it under control.
He's farther along than a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and if he
So-
really needs to double the value of his company to live the lifestyle he wants, then this is critical. I mean, he needs no delusion at all. No delusion. And he needs the closest thing to an unvarnished reality as possible, and he needs to get to work on the things that are going to give him those higher multiples and the higher value.
Yeah,
I'd also Mike, I'd also humbly suggest that he might be the perfect candidate for the oil well, or the asset class, right? Versus versus actually transacting on it, because he may need the income generated from it to live the lifestyle that he wants.
Well, you can do that too. I mean, I asked him who he thought his buyer would be, when he sells, and he goes, really, I don't know at this point. I go, okay, fine. But my goal with you is to make sure you're in the best possible position, so that and business is running well and it's transferable, and that opens up all the exit options for you. So, you don't have to choose one now, but whatever we're doing now will be beneficial for whatever your exit plan is.
Yeah, for sure.
So it doesn't matter if you want to sell internally, if you want to do an ESOP, if you want to sell to a private equity. I mean, all this stuff, what we're doing will make your business more transferable and make that whatever the transaction is, more successful.
Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
The main thing going through my head is, all of you have all these initials after your name, that the ultimate thing is to get rid of the business. And I go back to what Michael's earlier statement was, well, do you have to grow at 9 or 10%, or do you have to grow at this percent? And what I like for my business is largely, okay, I can help you grow the business. The exit is something later. The transaction value, I don't worry about that. What do you need now? Do you need new sales? Do you need new pricing? Do you need expense control? What do you need in order to improve the business? So some of what you guys all do, trying to get to that transaction and stuff, is not my focus. But I appreciate hearing about it all the time.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Paul, because sometimes people will tell me that they're like, not in this case, because this guy does want to leave in 3 to 5 years. Some people say, I'm not ready to leave. I'm not going to exit. I'm going to be here for a while. And they go, well, fine. That's great. We're going to help you. I'm going to try to help you. As George points out, right, with Growth Tribe, I'm going to make your business, help make it easy to run, right? I'm going to help you make it more profitable, more cash flow, better cash flowing, easy to run. And at the same time, it makes it more transferable at some point. But let's talk about, making it easy to run and making it more profitable for you today. So you don't have to focus on the exit. Sometimes people get a little turned off by the word exit, especially if they're not ready up here to deal with it. They'll just turn you off if you just say, I'm going to help you with your exit. Now, I mean, I'm going to help you make your business.
One other thing that, as I've been listening, is you say that, okay, the owner, he can take a month off and everything's good. Well, that CFO, can he take a month off? Possibly not, because he doesn't have the things underneath him. And I think that the senior leadership team can make the same statement as to whether or not they can take that month off without getting questions. And I think they are going to have a harder trouble doing that. The idea that the succession plan has to be written and sitting on a shelf in a book, I'm not so strong on that for small companies. That's
it's 285.
because invariably the smaller the company, the more likely you're going to go hire somebody because there ain't anybody inside that can replace that person.
Yeah, my point wasn't a formal 20-page succession plan written. My point was, have you actually identified somebody that you're working on, and can you name that person? If you have an idea that we have this succession plan, that's not the same as having a succession plan.
Yeah.
Our
It-
succession plan is, and you can state it, and everybody else can state what that is. I don't care if it's actually written like formally on 10 pages, but I do care that you've identified, and you've probably done reviews, and somewhere in somebody's review you said, we're working on you to be the successor for Susie or Jimmy, right?
Reviews?
Yeah.
Do they even do those? In too many places in the financial and especially in the sales organizations, the answer if this person leaves is we're going to have to hire somebody else from outside.
And right. And they're not looking for that person until someone leaves. So they're not
Right.
proactively recruiting everywhere. Always. They wait for they're reactive. Somebody leaves. Oh, now we got to hire somebody.
Yeah.
I
In the
got it.
meantime,
I got it, but there's a cost to that.
course.
There's a value cost to that of not having people in your organization that could step up and actually do stuff that you always have, that you're always dependent to go to the market and find somebody.
Yeah.
Of course.
Ed, I talked over you. You had something to contribute.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Paul, that I find, and that is, I don't let the word exit get into any discussion.
Yeah.
I used the word a transition, and instead I focus on, can I transition you from having to work 60 hours a week to 50 hours, and then our long-term goal in 2 years is to get you to 40 hours. But when we talk about transition, we got to ask the question, if you didn't have to be here that much and do that much, what's your plan when you're not here? And that usually brings forth lots of communications of saying, well, I don't have a plan, or I don't know what I would do. And if I had the time off, I'd be bored. So that usually means if they were working instead on organizing the business so that they were free, they would have a purpose that when they're not there, they would still be integral, but not essential.
I like that.
Yeah, actually, I rarely use it either, Ed. I think it's a great point. I actually ask them what they want to do. Like I peel the onion to find out what do you want to do? Well, I want to play more golf. Okay, whatever.
Yep.
What is it that you want to do? Well, I want to spend more time with my wife down in Florida and see my grandkids. Okay. So how do we get you from where you are now to this goal? I use their goal. I don't talk about exit. I use their stated goal as the thing we talk generically about exit. When I say exit, I mean whatever their goal is, right? And so if we are identifying their goal properly and we're working all the time towards their goal, and it might change for sure.
Oh, exactly.
If we're working towards their goal, that is the exit that we're talking about. Their goal could be, I want to be independently wealthy and able to travel and do X and Y. Oh, okay, great. So let's work towards that because you're not there yet.
Right.
Okay. What do we need to, what are the steps that we need to take to get you from where you are now to where you want to be? That's the whole thing. And to me, that's about having a strategy. And it goes back to what we talk about all the time, tying their activity back to something they're emotionally attached to. They're emotionally attached to getting to their goal. They absolutely are. And if we can identify what that goal is and really find that button, now, it's not a button for us to push. It's a button for them to push. They want this button pushed, right? And so we help them get to the point where they can, push that button more often. Oh, last year I didn't get to see my grandkids at all. Oh, how many times would you like to see them a year? I'd like to see them quarterly. I'd like to be able to travel to each of where my grandkids are and see them court. Oh, great. Here's your goal. Now, how do we get there? So
I think you hit, though, a very important element, and that is we have to be asking those questions of the owner as we're talking with them in the data gathering and information gathering. The 24 questions are too, shall I say, focused on one issue, and they don't get the emotion out of the
Yeah.
owner. And so a lot of times I'll totally disagree and with an answer just to create a discussion and say, I don't think that's realistic. Nobody that I've ever done this this questionnaire with has taken that answer. How do you think that you came up with that answer, and why do you think it's right? And
Yeah.
so I create a reason for them to not do something automatically. I mean, they're looking and going through all the questions and they're hitting answers, but they're not really thinking. They're just seeing options and they jump on an option. It's like on a multiple choice question, if you exam. I mean, I kid with my granddaughter who's going to be taking the bar exam at the end of July, and she said, we get one day we get 4 hours of multiple choice, and one day we have 4 hours of writing. And I said, okay, how fast does the 4 hours go for the questions? And she says, it's so long, we don't really need all that time. That's what I want to get the owner to think about. Are they putting too much time on things that need their attention, but they're not putting time in what they need to think about? And you raised all those questions. Do they have a backup? And Tim, as you started, are they thinking about leaving? Well, do they have a backup person if they leave, or is it something that has to be absorbed into something bigger? Are they a tuck-in acquisition? Asking those types of discussions and saying, is a transition in a tuck-in position, or is it something that's going to continue to stand and flourish on its own?
Mhm.
I want to get them to have to think about that type of discussion as we're dealing and working with them, because I think
put yourself in the buyer's seat instead of just sitting in the seller's seat. I need $10 million for this. Well, that's great, but it's only worth 4 right now, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, hey guys, I'm noticing we're 25 after. Let's go around for a quick round of takeaways, right? Tim, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, well, I'll start. I mean, there's been a lot of great stuff here today, as always, but I really appreciate the quick feedback on how in different ways that I can help these guys to test the interest with their high net worth client. So thank you very much for that. And I will pass it to Mike.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, Tim, you helped me kind of frame the necessity of the alignment report and why it's very important to have it. Again, as you pointed out, this owner needs truly an honest perspective and an objective perspective on what his business looks like, and then with that kind of objective look, and make it as objective as possible so he's not deluding himself and not kidding himself. Once we get that down, then we can really focus in on the key areas that will add more total value to the company. So I thank you guys for that. It's helpful. So I'll pass it on to Paul.
So I take away from today, how can I help you get to where you want to be? And it all falls back into that. And I'm embarrassed if I try to describe this meeting to my wife saying it's a coffee klatsch. And so I instead use it's a mastermind.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll pass
Just
it
ask
in.
us, right?
What is a Klatsch? I think I had
Ed,
that
you're
once. I
up.
came off for a week.
Isn't that the thing that hooks that when you shut the gate on the fence, the Klatsch?
I thought it was an arm or a rotator cuff condition.
Yeah,
or
right.
something.
There you go. There you go. Ed, you're up.
I think the alignment reminder, I said, Joe and I did a project last year, and if we would have done the alignment questionnaire right after we did the initial questionnaire, we would have not fouled up and wasted 5 months trying to take a person who did not want to change to make him into a changed person. And
Yeah.
then be frustrated when he said, well, I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to change. I think if we would have gotten to that point, and a perfect example was, I found him a new sales manager. He hired the sales manager. The sales manager texted me last week. He left because he can't get along with the owner because the owner wants to decide everything. He won't let anybody make any decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, as
Eric, how about you?
said,
Well,
at
my-
60 years old, after 40 years running the company, writing $40 million,
Yep.
he wants to micromanage every freaking thing in the business.
Never seen that guy before.
Oh, I've never encountered him.
Well, my first takeaway is Mike's still living in New York because he had a New York cap on and a Staten Island shirt on, and so like he's still got New York tattooed all over him.
It's too cheap to buy new clothes.
Right, exactly. Can't you get something that says Florida on it, Mike?
Yeah, good. No, we still, our baseball team down here is pretty pathetic, and our football team has been even worse. But in any case, no,
You
I
need
would
to be
say
there in, what was it, the 80s when the Miami Dolphins were hot? The 70s, 80s?
Yeah. You have to
my
go back to the 70s.
there you go, 70s. Yeah. Okay. Just a little while ago.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they have undefeated
my-
season. The 72 Dolphins were the only undefeated team in
There you go.
football.
There you go.
That's what I'm hanging my hat on. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
My biggest takeaway was Paul, thank you. A reminder that we use the word exit way too loosely.
Yeah,
And that I always think of when I'm saying exit, what I explained to you, Paul, but I don't articulate that often. And so other people hear exit, exit, exit. I'm thinking I'm helping them get where they want to go. Right. And so I think we got to be careful. It was a reminder specifically to that thing that I need to be careful of that. And it was a reminder generically that we just all need to remember when we're using jargon and we're getting lazy and talking in that sort of generic way. Other people aren't hearing what we're saying. Right? They're not hearing the same thing we're thinking, because I've always been thinking I'm helping clients get to where they want to go. That's my purpose. That's what I do. Right? And no, sometimes I'm helping them understand where they really want to go. They don't really understand that. We all get that part, but I'm helping them form that destination, and then we work on getting to that destination. Right? So good reminder for all of us.
I'll
Thank you,
throw
guys.
an item for you, since you're on the committee for the program. Let's have a fine of $1 for every time anyone says the word exit else. Because I think
There you go.
that's one of the problems. We have become so accustomed to using the word.
Yeah.
We throw it out when it's not really the word.
I
we
love
use
it, actually, Ed. I love the idea that we start the conference with a reminder. We're not going to use generic words. Like, use your language, right? Like, say what you mean. Don't get lazy and use the placeholder word. Right?
Yeah, it's not called exit drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not to drive. That's right.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yep. All right,
Yeah,
guys. Thank
but
you very
also,
much.
same thing
Take care,
applies to
guys.
growth. Let's not just talk about growth generically either, right?
Right.
What do we mean?
Eric, thanks for taking the
Thanks,
lead.
everybody.
Thank you,
Guys,
guys. Have a
great
great day.
meeting. Talk to you.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.